Good afternoon, dear students. Welcome to the English Canvas. In this lecture, we explore one of the most meaningful anthologies of modern times, Freedom Short Stories Celebrating the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. This powerful collection brings together some of the world's most profound voices. Paulo Coelho, Nadine Gordimer, and Ishmael Beer. So each using fiction to illuminate the struggles and hopes as well as crimes of human spirit. Through their stories, we'll see how literature becomes a mirror of human dignity, freedom, and justice. Values at the very heart of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, 1948. Will reflect on how these authors from different countries, languages, and experiences speak a universal language of compassion and courage. Their words remind us that freedom is not only a political right but also a deeply personal responsibility to think freely, to act justly, and to see the humanity in others. So let's begin our journey through these stories where art meets activism and imagination becomes a path to empathy and equality, right? So first we'll read In the Prison of Repose by Paulo Coelho. So he is one of the most widely read and translated authors of our time, a writer whose words have crossed languages, religions, and borders to inspire millions. He is best known for his deeply spiritual and allegorical novel The Alchemist, which was published in 1988, which has become a modern classic of world literature. So Coelho's writing is not merely a fiction, it's a form of philosophical reflection, combining storytelling with a profound search for meaning, freedom, and destiny. So his full name is Paulo Coelho de Souza. He was born on 24th August in 1947 in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. He's Brazilian author. So Coelho grew up in a middle class Catholic family. From an early age, he felt drawn to writing, but his parents discouraged his creative ambitions, wanting him to become an engineer. So his rebellious spirit led to conflicts with authority and even institutional confinement during his teenage years, which experiences that later influenced his themes of freedom, individuality, and spiritual awakening. So, in his youth, he lived an unconventional life, exploring art, music, and philosophy. He worked as a lyricist of Brazilian musicians, especially the Raul Seixas, and was a part of countercultural movement that opposed Brazil's military dictatorship in 1970s. So in 1986, a pilgrimage changed his life. He walked 500 miles along the Camino de Santiago in Spain. This journey of this journey of spiritual discovery became the foundation of his later works, especially The Pilgrimage and The Alchemist. So Paulo Coelho's writing career began in the earnest of mid 1980s. His works since then have focused on universal themes like self-discovery, destiny, love, spirituality, and pursuit of dreams. So let's go through his major works, their central ideas and literary significance. So his first major work is The Pilgrimage, which was published in 1987. It is it was it is Coelho's uh, first major book based on his own journey along the Camino de Santiago. It blends autobiography and mysticism, exploring the idea that spiritual wisdom is found through experience, not doctrine. So the theme is the journey as a metaphor for inner transformation. It's a mix of travel narrative and spiritual guidebook. Second is The Alchemist, which was published in 1988. It's Coelho's masterpiece. ये मास्टरपीस है पाओलो कोएल्हो का. सो इट्स सेलिंग मोर देन 100 million कॉपीज वर्ल्ड वाइड. बहुत फेमस बुक है ये उनकी. सो द नॉवल टेल्स द स्टोरी ऑफ सेंटियागो, a young shepherd who dreams of finding treasure in Egyptian pyramids. Through his journey, Santiago discovers the real treasure lies within in the following one's personal legend, the unique path, the universal ideas of each person. So, this novel describes the unity of all existence, faith, destiny, and self realization, the power of dreams and perseverance. And the alchemist transformed Paulo Coelho into a global voice for spiritual literature. Third is Brida, which was published in 1919. It's a mystical novel about a young Irish woman seeking knowledge through magic, love, and self-discovery. It explores themes of female spirituality, reincarnation, and divine femininity. Right. Next is By the River Peter I Sat Down and Wept, and it was published in 1994. It is a part of Coelho's On the Seventh Day trilogy. This novel deals with love as a spiritual experience. It shows that romantic love can be a path toward understanding God and oneself. Fifth is Veronica Decides to Die, and it got published in 1998. It's a powerful novel about mental health, conformity, and the meaning of life. The protagonist, Veronica, after attempting suicide, discovers the life's value lies in its imperfection and unpredictability. So, the theme of this novel is freedom is not the absence of rules, but the courage to live authentically. Next is The Devil and Miss Prim. So it was published in 2000. It explores the duality of good and evil within every person. This is a philosophical story showing how temptations and morality coexist in human nature. The seventh is 11 Minutes, which was published in 2003. It's a controversial yet moving story about sexuality, love, and spiritual awakening through the life of Maria, a Brazilian prostitute in Geneva. He explores how even the body can become a path to the soul, right? And he said in this novel that sex is the sacred language of soul. The eighth is The Zahir. ये टी है. The Zahir, it got published in 2005. It centers on obsession and spiritual freedom. A successful writer searches for his missing wife and discovers that true love means letting go. Ninth is Witch of Portobello. It got published in 2006. It tells the story of Athena, a mysterious woman who questions religion and culture, the nature of truth, and it reflects Coelho's fascination with the divine femininity and individuality, right? The 10th is Elif. It got published in 2010. It's an autobiographical novel about a spiritual journey across continents and time. It reflects Coelho's recurring belief in reincarnation and forgiveness and the eternal return of souls. So, in his major works, we can see the theme of spiritual journey, destiny and free will, faith and intuition and love, right? As well as freedom and symbolism and allegory is also there. So his style is simple, clear, and profoundly symbolic, designed to reach readers of all cultures. Um, the characteristics of his writing is clarity and the simplicity of language, symbolism and allegory. Every object or event has a deeper meaning. It has his work has a spiritual tone that is mixing parable and philosophy. It has universal appeal, transcends religion, nationality, and age, and it has an optimistic worldview that faith in humanity and destiny, right? So उसके अलावा इनको काफ़ी सारे अवार्ड्स भी मिले हैं, जैसे इनको क्रिस्टल अवार्ड मिला था, वर्ल्ड इकोनॉमिक फोरम ने इनको दिया था 1999 में. इनको शेवलियर डी आई ऑर्डर नेशनल डी ला लीजन दी ऑनर अवार्ड मिला था, जो कि फ्रांस ने दिया था 2000 में. इनको यूनेस्को स्पेशल काउंसलर फॉर इंटेलेक्चुअल डायलॉग्स एंड स्पिरिचुअल कन्वर्जेंस भी मिला है. and he's named messenger of peace by the United Nation. इनको मैसेंजर ऑफ पीस भी कहा जाता है. एंड ही वॉज लिस्टेड अमंग द मोस्ट ट्रांसलेटेड लिविंग ऑथर्स वर्ल्ड वाइड. मतलब इनका ग्लोबल लेवल पर काफ़ी ज़्यादा नेम एंड फेम है, इनको काफ़ी ज़्यादा पढ़ा जाता है. सो हिज राइटिंग स्पीक्स टू द सीकर इन एवरी ह्यूमन बींग. Through his simple yet profound storytelling, he reminds us that life is a journey guided by faith, courage, and purpose. His characters are from shepherds to mystics, from lovers to wanderers, and all these characters teach us one timeless truth, that is, freedom and destiny are not opposite but two paths leading to the same spiritual awakening. Right? So we'll discuss now the short story which is in our syllabus, in the prison of repose. So in the prison of repose is a deeply autobiographical narrative written by this celebrated Brazilian author Paulo Coelho. Unlike his spiritual novels such as The Alchemist or The Pilgrimage, this short story, uh, in Prison of Repose, this short story is raw, introspective, and confessional. It's a it's drawn directly from Coelho's own life. ये इनकी खुद की लाइफ से ली हुई स्टोरी है. That was between 1966 to 1968. देखिए यहाँ पे मेंशन है 1966, 1967 and 1968. When as rebellious teenager Coelho was forcibly admitted to a psychiatric hospital by his parent. So through extracts from his real diary, Coelho exposes the psychological and emotional cruelty of being imprisoned for non-conformity. So this piece appears in the anthology Freedom, जो ये नाम है ना आपका सिलेबस में मेंशन है. ये जो स्टोरी है दैट अपीयर्स इन द एंथोलॉजी फ्रीडम शॉर्ट स्टोरीज सेलिब्रेटिंग द यूनिवर्सल डिक्लेरेशन ऑफ ह्यूमन राइट्स अंडर आर्टिकल 19 freedom of expression. It is mentioned there as well under article 19 freedom of expression. So Coelho does not theorize about freedom, he experiences its absence. His story becomes both a personal confession and a protest against the suppression of individuality. So let's talk about the story's plot. So the narrative is structured एज अ सीरीज ऑफ डायरी एंट्रीज. देख सकते हैं आप, ये बिल्कुल फर्स्ट पेज है शॉर्ट स्टोरी का. ये डायरी एंट्रीज की फॉर्म में है. यहाँ पे लिखा भी है इन 1966, 1967, 1968 it was admitted to a psychiatric hospital, Casa de Dr. Iraz in Rio de Janeiro. Medical diagnosis: antisocial, rebellious, incapable of obeying parents. ये भी बताइए डिसऑर्डर है, डायग्नोस हो रहा है इनका. रादर देन राइटिंग थियोरेटिकल अबाउट इम्पॉर्टेंस ऑफ फ्रीडम ऑफ एक्सप्रेशन, आई वुड प्रेफर टू ट्रांसक्राइब हियर एक्सट्रैक्ट फ्रॉम द डायरी आई केप्ट ड्यूरिंग माई फर्स्ट पीरियड ऑफ internment. So this narrative is structured as a series of diary entries from July to September 1966, when Coelho was confined in a psychiatric hospital in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, the Casa de Dr. Iraz. Right. So this story the story begins with Coelho being abruptly taken from his home and placed in a psychiatric ward. He recalls the humiliation of being driven away in a hospital car where neighbors watch. A thin youth with long hair bowed his head to get into the car. Yes, bowed his head. He was defeated. So inside the hospital, at 8 a.m. I was woken up to have my blood pressure taken, still groggy with sleep. I thought it was a dream, but gradually the reality of situation began to sink in. It was end. They told me to get dressed quickly. Outside the house stood a car from the emergency psychiatric service. I had never imagined how depressing it would be to get into such a car. So inside the hospital, he meets other patients. Some have been there for years, some have been lost hope, some have accepted the monotony. He feels terror, right? He feels terror at the thought of becoming like them, who are empty, resigned, sorry, empty, resigned and broken. So through his diaries, Qualo records the daily routine, like his blood pressure check, forced medication, isolation, and surveillance. He can't write letters or make phone calls freely. So his only comfort is his guitar, which becomes a fragile symbol of freedom in confinement. And he said in this story, in this diary entry, it brings a little joy into the atmosphere laden with sadness, his guitar, right? So he interacts with his roommate Flavio. इसका एक roommate भी बनता है यहाँ पर इस hospital में. Flavio, he is a young man haunted by lost love and suicidal despair. So their conversations reveal the deep loneliness and fragility of mental patients, so many of whom have been forgotten by society. So, as day passes, Kolo experiences growing despair. He tries to resist sleep because sleep means surrender. So it's a symbol of losing consciousness and individuality. According to him, sleep dulls the ability to reason, and I will end up like everyone else in here. So he longs for his girlfriend here in this psychiatric hospital. He longs for his girlfriend Rini, whose presence outside the hospital presents represents the world of love, normalcy, and the youth he has lost. So her visits are rare and uncertain, emphasizing his emotional imprisonment. But there's a moments of brief hope as well. In one entry, he receives a good news. One of his poems have won a national poetry competition. Imagine a person who is in a psychiatric hospital, and his poetry has won a prize. This is very क्या कहें इसको, बहुत ही अजीब सी चीज़ है कि किसी को बाहर अवार्ड मिल रहा है और अंदर वो उसका मेंटली उसका ट्रीटमेंट चल रहा है. So he received this good news that one of his poems has won a national poetry competition, and this announcement fills him with joy and pride. This is a moment of reclaiming of identity and purpose. So here he said in this diary entry, here behind bars, I wonder if Tata still remembers me. I am very very happy. So but this joy fades quickly. It is temporary light in the darkness. As weeks go by, Kolo faces increasing hostility from doctors. ऐसा ही होता है. So there is a doctor, Dr. Benjamin. His psychiatrist mocks him for being lazy and undisciplined, right? इसको एक बार कह भी देता है, यू आर अ नथिंग, यू आर परफेक्टली हैप्पी विद द वे थिंग्स आर. सो तब पोलो कोलो जो है खुद को डिफेंड करता है. एनीथिंग दैट इज डन विद लव इज वर्थ वाइल. सो दिस एक्सचेंज और कॉन्वर्जेशन कैप्चर्स द सेंट्रल कॉन्फ्लिक्ट, and this is the creative individual versus institutional control. The Dr. Benjamin represents authority and conformity, while Paulo Coelho embodies freedom, art, and individuality. फिर आ जाता है फादर्स डे. तो one of the most emotional section is Coelho's poem addressed to his father, written on Father's Day. He expresses guilt, he expresses anger and sorrow, and feeling that his father sees him as a failure and a burden. तब ये उस डायरी एंट्री में शुरू करते हैं. आपको ये शेयर स्टोरी में मेंशन भी होगा. गुड मॉर्निंग डैड, टुडे इज़ योर डे, बट आई कैन नीदर गिव यू एनीथिंग नॉर से एनीथिंग बिकॉज यू एम्बिटेड हार्ट इज़ नाउ डेफ टू वर्ड्स. सो दिस पोएम, एक्चुअली दिस इज़ अ पोएम, तो आप ये पोएम उनका पढ़ सकते हैं, ऑनलाइन आपको मिल जाएगा. सो दिस पोएम शोज अ सन्स desperate need for love and understanding, but also a growing awareness that his father's fears and control stem from love distorted by societal norms, right? So by the end, Kolo feels broken. He is threatened with electroconvulsive therapy and drug injections. He cuts his hair, the last symbol of rebellion. वो उसने rebellion में अपने बाल काट दिए. And he cuts his hair and confesses his emotional defeat. So yet within that defeat lies the seed of transformation. He later explains that these experiences inspired his future writing, especially Veronica Decides to Die, which got published in 1998. So the story ends with his note that years later his book led to a change in a Brazilian law prohibiting arbitrary hospitalization and a real victory of human rights. Now we'll discuss the characters. The first is the narrator Paulo Coelho. He's a young writer, sensitive, rebellious. He represents the individual voice silenced by authority. His diary becomes an act of resistance you know, and self-preservation. The second character is Flavio, his roommate. So he is a tragic figure symbolizing hopelessness and loss of self. His repeated suicide attempts mirror what Kolo fears becoming, emotionally numb and defeated. The third is, so there is a doctor, Dr. Benjamin. He is the authoritarian psychiatrist representing societal conformity and institutional control. He humiliates Kolo, trying to cure rebellion through obedience. Right? There's one more character, Ronnie, his girlfriend. Uh, Ronnie, sorry, ये रिनी है. Rini, his girlfriend, she represents love, youth, and outside world, a fragile reminder of normal life and emotional freedom. His father, a symbol of patriarchal control and misunderstanding. His actions come from fear, not cruelty, yet they destroy trust and individuality. And there are other patients as well that represent society's forgotten individual who's labeled mad for not fitting for. मैड लोग कौन, हम किसको कहते हैं कि मैड है, इसको वहाँ भेजो, असाइलम भेजो, क्योंकि वो सोसाइटी में फिट नहीं होते. इसका मतलब थोड़ी कि वो लोग गलत हैं. मैं तो नहीं मानती ऐसे किसी को कि अगर कोई सोसाइटी में फिट नहीं हो रहा तो उसको हम सोसाइटी से बाहर निकाल दें. लेकिन सोसाइटी करती ही ऐसा. जो लोग सोसाइटी में फिट नहीं होते हैं उनको निकाल दिया जाता है सोसाइटी से. सो दे रिप्रेजेंट सोसाइटीज फॉर गॉटेन इंडिविजुअल, दोज लेबल्ड एज मैड फॉर नॉट fitting in. Their passive acceptance of confinement terrifies Qualo. Now let's talk about the themes of this short story. The first is freedom of expression and individuality. So this is the central theme. Qualo is imprisoned not for illness but for thinking differently. तो ये भी डिफरेंट सोचते थे, इसलिए इनको जाके वो असाइलम में डाल दिया, इनको भेज दिया इनके पेरेंट्स ने, इनकी फैमिली ने, क्योंकि फिट नहीं बैठ रहे थे. Because for he was thinking indifferently, he was thinking differently for he is imprisoned for thinking differently, for rejecting conformity, and the hospital becomes a metaphor for society's fear of creativity and freedom. तो सोसाइटी डरती है क्रिएटिविटी से. तो जो जिनसे उन्हें डर लगता है सोसाइटी को कि ये क्रिएटिविटी ले आएंगे, फ्रीडम ले आएंगे, उनको या तो जेल में डाल दिया जाता है या उनको मेंटल असाइलम में डाल दिया जाता है. So the story directly relates to Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the right to freedom of opinion, freedom of expression, and freedom of thought. Right. The second theme is rebellion versus control. So the conflicts between Kolo and Dr. Benjamin represents the eternal struggle between the individual conscience and institutional authority. The hospital enforces order through medication, surveillance, and humiliation, turning treatment into a form of imprisonment. The third is isolation and mental health. So Kolo portrays the psychological pain of confinement, the loneliness, the monotony, and the erasure of identity. His longing for human connection, like Rennie, his father, his music, shows that freedom is not just physical but emotional and creative. Fourth is conformity and the loss of self. So as the time passes, he begins to understand how easily humans adapt to captivity. The story warns against moral resignation and the acceptance of oppression as normal. Fifth is art as resistance. So, despite everything, writing keeps him alive. His diary is both therapy and a rebellion, a way to record truth when speech is forbidden. It's art that allows him to survive. So, the last theme is forgiveness and transformation. This ending shows Kolo's spiritual maturity. He does not remain bitter, he transforms pain into creativity. Years later, his experience becomes a force of social reform, providing that suffering can lead to awareness and change. So ये जो स्टोरी थी ये डायरी फॉर्म में थी, ये तो हमने देखा. It creates intimacy and authenticity. We experience Carlos emotions in real time. इसकी लैंग्वेज बहुत ही सिंपल और कॉन्वर्जेशनल थी. इट रिफ्लेक्ट्स हिज यूथ एंड सिंसेरिटी एंड मेक्स द पेन रिलेटेबल, राइट. इसमें सिम्बॉलिज्म ये है कि बाज है, यहाँ पर स्लीप है, हेयर कट है, दैट रिप्रेजेंट्स कन्फाइनमेंट सरेंडर एंड लॉस ऑफ आइडेंटिटी. Contrast is there between outside world that is about freedom and love, and the hospital that is a symbol of control and silence. And the tone shifts from rebellion to despair, from rebellion to despair, from despair to reflection, from reflection to quiet hope. So in the prison of repose is not only a record of young men suffering, it's a testament. It's a testament to the power of writing and freedom of thought. So Paulo Coelho transforms trauma into truth and truth into reform. His diary becomes an act of defiance against every system, family, psychiatry, or government that tries to silence the human spirit. Ultimately, the story reminds us that the freedom begins with self awareness, that even in the darkest prisons, the mind and soul can remain unbroken. So, there's a closing line. Now, let's start all over again. So, this closing line, simple yet profound, defines Coelho's philosophy: rebirth through resilience, healing through expression, right? So this is about the first story in Paulo Coelho's In the Prison of Repose. Our next story is, so the second story is Amnesty, written by Nadine Gordimer. She was a South African novelist, short story writer, and political activist, and one of the most powerful literary voices against racial injustice and apartheid. Her writing combines literary artistry with moral courage, exploring how politics and invades personal life and how individuals struggle with conscience, identity, and freedom in a divided society. She was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1991. This is very important about her. Uh, so she was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1991 for her works that through magnificent epic writing have been of great benefit to humanity. So she was born in 20th November 1923. So she was born on 20th November 1923 at Springs, a mining town near Johannesburg, South Africa. Her father is Isidore Godimer, a Jewish watchmaker from Lithuania, and her mother is Nan Meyer from London. She grew up in a racially segregated South Africa where black and white people were divided by strict apartheid laws. Her early exposure to inequality deeply shaped her awareness of injustice, privilege, and moral responsibility. Her mother, though white, often took an interest in the welfare of black workers. So it's a kind of sympathy that influenced young Nadine's sensitivity to racial discrimination. So she attended a convent school and began writing as a child. Her first story is Come Again Tomorrow was published at the age of 15 only in the children's section of Johannesburg magazine. She briefly studied at the University of Witwatersrand but left after a year to write full time. By her early 20s, she was already publishing in South African literary journals where her stories began addressing the growing tension of apartheid. Nadine Gordimer lived through and wrought during one of the most turbulent period in Africa, South African history. She witnessed the rise and brutal enforcement of apartheid. That apartheid is what? What is apartheid? It's a racial segregation policy. This creates discrimination against black over white. Sorry, blacks against blacks, right? So the banning of books, censorship, and she witnessed the banning of books and censorship and a political arrest. She witnessed the imprisonment of Nelson Mandela and the long struggle for black liberation. So Godimer's works courageously confronted these realities, and several of her books were banned by South African government for their political content. She became associated with African National Congress members, including Nelson Mandela, and later served as an African National Congress member after the ban was lifted. Her career spanned over 60 years that produced 15 novels, more than 10 to 15 short story collections, and many essays, political writings, and interviews. Her fiction often portrays ordinary individuals caught in moral conflicts created by racism, privilege, and social change. So let's explore her most important novels and story collection with brief summaries and central ideas. So the first is The Lying Days, which was published in 1953. This is her first novel, largely autobiographical. It follows Helen Shaw, a young white woman growing up in a small mining town who slowly becomes aware of racial injustice and moral hypocrisy around her. So the theme of this work is the awakening of political and moral consciousness in an oppressive society. Second is A World of Stranger, which was published in 1958. This novel examines the social divide between white privilege and the black poverty. It's a young English publisher, Toby Hood, comes to Johannesburg and learns that the true human connection is impossible in a racial divided society. The theme of this work is alienation and guilt under apartheid. And the novel was banned for 12 years in South Africa. The third is Occasion for Living, 1963. Uh, it centers on forbidden love affair between a white woman and a black artist. It's a relationship illegal under apartheid's racial laws. The theme is of this work is the conflict between personal passion and political reality. It's a bold critique of racial segregation um, through human relationships. The fourth is Late Bourgeois World, which got published in 1966. It's a short, intense novel about a woman whose ex-husband, once a political radical, commits suicide. It explores the emptiness of moral confusion and liberal whites who oppose apartheid in theory but remain passive in practical. There is one more novel, Berger's Daughter, which got published in 1719. One of her most celebrated works. The protagonist, Rosa Berger, is the daughter of a white anti-apartheid activist who died in prison. So she must decide whether to continue his political legacy or seek her own identity. The fifth, there's one more, July's People, and it got published in 1981. It's a visionary novel sets in fictional futures where apartheid has collapsed through civil wars. A white liberal family must flee their city and depend on their black servant, July, for survival in the countryside. The theme is role reversal, class, independence, and the collapse of racial hierarchies. So, this is one of the most studied post colonial novel इन वर्ल्ड लिटरेचर. इसके अलावा इनके और भी बहुत सारे काम हैं, जैसे द कंजर्वेशनिस्ट है जो कि 1974 में पब्लिश हुआ था. ये एलिनेशन, एक्सप्लोरेशन और इल्यूजन ऑफ डोमिनेंस पर बेस्ड है. एक और इनका नावल है नन टू एकम्पनी मी, वो 1994 में पब्लिश्ड हुआ था. ये तब लिखा गया था जब अपार्थाइड सिस्टम का एंड हो गया था. इट एक्सप्लोर्स हाउ एक्टिविस्ट स्ट्रगल टू अडेप्ट न्यू डेमोक्रेटिक साउथ अफ्रीका. इसका थीम था ट्रांजिशन, मॉरल एग्जॉशन एंड होप इन द पोस्ट अपार्थाइड एरा. इसके अलावा एक और था पिकअप जो कि 2001 में पब्लिश हुआ था. इट्स अ लेटर नॉवल डीलिंग विद माइग्रेशन एंड आइडेंटिटी इन ग्लोबलाइज्ड वर्ल्ड. where a young white woman falls in love with Arab mechanic who is later deported, forcing her to confront privilege and displacement. इसके अलावा एक और था गेट अ लाइफ, जो कि 2005 में 2005 में पब्लिश हुआ था. इट सेंटर्स ऑन environmentalists who after कैंसर ट्रीटमेंट क्वेश्चंस हिज आइडियाज एंड कॉन्ट्रडिक्शन ऑफ मॉडर्न एक्टिविस्ट. इसके अलावा इनकी बहुत सारी शॉर्ट स्टोरीज कलेक्शन है. Like as we know that Nadine Godimer is also a master of short story, a form that is through which she often revealed the private consequence of public systems. तो जैसे उनकी बहुत सारी शॉर्ट स्टोरीज है. फेस टू फेस जो कि 1945 में पब्लिश हुआ था. ये अर्ली स्टोरीज है चाइल्डहुड और क्लास के बारे में. और एक और था 6 feet of this country, not for publication, टाउन एंड कंट्री लवर्स, जंप ऑफ अनदर स्टोरीज, बहुत सारी थी. तो इनकी जो शॉर्ट स्टोरीज़ हैं, इनकी जो नॉवेल्स हैं, उनके थीम्स काफ़ी अच्छे हैं. जैसे एक थीम है अपार्थाइड एंड रेशियल इनजस्टिस. इट एक्सपोजेस हाउ laws dehumanize both oppressed and the oppressor. One more theme is there, moral choice and responsibility. So her characters face ethical dilemmas, complicity versus courage. Her work has a theme of love and politics. It's a personal relationship becomes sides of political struggle. Freedom and confinement is there, right? उसके अलावा आइडेंटिटी और बिलोंगिंग पर भी बात होती है, ट्रांजिशन और चेंज पर बात होती है. सो नाडिन गोडाइमोस प्रोज combines psychological depth and political clarity. She works on realism and symbolism. She blends realistic detail with symbolic layers, as in The Conservationist. She has a subtle irony, especially in portraying white liberal guilt. Complex moral tone. Her characters are never purely good or evil. They are moral ambiguous. इसके अलावा इनकी जो राइटिंग है उसमें शार्प सोशल ऑब्जर्वेशन मिलेगा. एवरी डायलॉग और जेस्चर रिफ्लेक्ट्स क्लास एंड रेशियल डायनामिक्स, राइट. इसके अलावा भी काफ़ी चीज़ें हैं. लाइक his work is fast yet powerful narration. She uses understatement rather than melodrama. Her tone is quiet but her message is thunderous. इनको भी काफ़ी सारे अवार्ड मिले, जैसे कि मैंने बताया कि नोबेल प्राइज़ इन लिटरेचर मिला 1991 में. बुकर प्राइज़ मिला फॉर हर नॉवेल, ये वाली नॉवेल, अच्छा नाम नहीं लिखा मैंने यहाँ पे, द कंजर्वेशनिस्ट एक नॉवेल है इनका जिसके लिए इन्हें बुकर प्राइज़ मिला था 1974 में. इनको एक जेम्स टेट ब्लैक मेमोरियल प्राइज़ में मिला, फ्रेंच लीजन ऑफ ऑनर में मिला, और बहुत सारे डॉक्टरेट्स भी मिले अलग अलग यूनिवर्सिटी से वर्ल्ड वाइड. सो नाडिन गोडाइमर्स लेगेसी लाइज इन हर अनवेवरिंग कमिटमेंट टू ट्रुथ, justice through art. She gave the voice to moral and emotional cost of apartheid, not through propaganda but through deeply human stories. Her characters divided by race, love, class, and conscience, and reflects the painful complexity of South Africa's history and the universal struggle for freedom. So, through her courage and craft, Godimer proved that fiction can challenge injustice and more powerfully than political speeches. Right now, let's read the short story "Amnesty," which is written by Nadine Godimer. This is one of her most emotionally layered and political powerful work. So we'll discuss it in brief but with detailed analysis. So Nadine Gordimer's Amnesty is a deeply human and political charged short story set in apartheid era South Africa. It was published in late 1980s. late 1980s में ये publish हुआ था. A time of increasing political resistance and state oppression before Nelson Mandela's release. This short story is narrated by a black South African woman who is unnamed, whose unnamed voice gives a reader a powerful and personal glimpse into how politics affects private lives. This short story portrays how love, family, and hope are reshaped by the struggle of freedom. So, through the eyes of this black South African woman, a farm worker who is a farm worker, a lover, and a mother, Godimer shows how the personal becomes political and how the fighter for liberation extends even into intimate spaces of love and home. So, Amnesty is both a story of one woman's waiting and a nation's longing for freedom, dignity, and reconciliation. So, we will discuss the plot summary now. So, there is an exposition of waiting and memory. So, there is a character, the narrator, who is a black young woman, who's a young black woman, begins by joyfully describing how she runs across the farm to announce that her lover has been released from prison. Her lover has been gone for 9 years, imprisoned for his involvement in union and political activism. Before his imprisonment, he had worked in the city for a construction company. He was intelligent, outspoken, and politically aware. But after joining the workers' union and helping to organize the strike, he was arrested and later sentenced to 6 years on Robben Island, the same prison where Nelson Mandela and the other political prisoners were held, right? So the narrator recalls their early love. He paid bride price to her father. इनके यहाँ ऐसा ही होता होगा, इनके यहाँ पे ब्राइड प्राइस देना पड़ता होगा. So for getting married with her, he had paid bride price to her father. They dreamed of marriage. They planned their plans destroyed when he was jailed. So the story then moves into the long period of waiting and endurance. The narrator writes to him monthly. The narrator writes her lover her writes to her lover monthly since his parents are illiterate. But वो लिखती है फिर भी. And his letters are censored. मतलब वो जो बदले में जो रिप्लाई में जो लेटर इस कैरेक्टर को, इस नरेटर को, इस ब्लैक यंग वुमन को जो लिखता है, मतलब वो भी लेटर लिखती है और ये भी लेटर लिखता है. ऑल्दो इसके जो लेटर्स हैं, मतलब जिसके पेरेंट्स हैं वो तो इलिटरेट है, बट स्टिल जो इसके जो लेटर्स हैं उनको पहले जेल की अथॉरिटी पढ़ती है और कुछ वर्ड्स को ब्लैक कर देती है, ब्लैक इंक से कवर कर देती है क्योंकि वो सेंसर्ड होते हैं. सो हिज लेटर्स आर सेंसर्ड, सम वर्ड्स आर ब्लैक्ड आउट बाय प्रिजन अथॉरिटीज. That symbolizes how even communication is control under apartheid. मतलब apartheid में communication भी काफ़ी control था. So the narrator gives birth to their daughter Inkululeku. नाम है, ये अफ्रीकन नाम है. So Inkululeku का मतलब होता है freedom. So during his trial, a symbolic name showing both personal love and political hope. So the family attempts to visit him on Robben Island, but they are denied entry for lack of a government permit. So this moment captures the cruel bureaucracy of apartheid, where even love requires official permission. So years pass, and the narrator works as a school assistant on a white man's farm, supports her mother, and raises her child. So life is defined by poverty, waiting, and limited freedom, right? So finally the day comes when he is released under the government's amnesty for political prisoners. So the narrator learns the news from the radio and the newspaper photographs showing men celebrating their release at the ferry. When he arrives, brought by comrades in combi van, the reunion is emotional but awkward. थोड़ा सा awkward भी हुआ ये. So he looks different. अब जब कितने 9 years की imprisonment के बाद आया तो अलग तो दिखेगा ही. So he looks different, heavier, more serious, changed by prison and politics. Even their daughter does not recognize him, saying that's not him. इसकी खुद की बेटी ने अपने फादर को, मतलब इसके लवर को पहचानने से मना कर दिया कि नहीं नहीं ये तो मेरे फादर है ही नहीं. That innocent line, that's not him, ये एक line है short story में. So this is the innocent line that captures how time and struggle alter human bonds. This is so true. So after his return, though he is free, but he does not truly return home. He is now fully devoted to the movement, the movement about the political struggle for liberation. He travels, he attends meetings, and he leads discussion with comrades. His presence at home is temporary, his mind always elsewhere. So the narrator, the young woman, realizes that their relationship has transformed, क्योंकि जो उसका लवर है उसका तो ध्यान ही कहीं और चला गया है। वो तो बस अब लिबरेशन के लिए, स्ट्रगल के लिए, मूवमेंट में उसका ध्यान रहता है, रिलेशनशिप में उसका ध्यान है ही नहीं। सो द इंटीमेसी दे वंस हैड, मतलब बिफोर अरेस्ट, अरेस्ट होने से पहले जो इंटीमेसी इन दोनों के बीच में थी, इट हैज़ नाउ ओवरशेडोड बाय हिज लार्जर मिशन, क्योंकि अब उसके पास एक बड़ा मिशन है, देश को, अपने नेशन को आज़ाद कराने का, अपने लोगों को फ्रीडम, लिबरेशन दिलाने का। तो अब जो उसका जो इंटीमेसी जो उनके पास, उनके अंदर थी, उनके रिलेशनशिप में थी, अब वो ओवरशेडोड हो गई है, क्योंकि उसके पास एक बड़ा मिशन है, बाय हिज लार्जर मिशन। ही हैज़ बिकम अ सिंबल, अ रिप्रेजेंटेटिव ऑफ फ्रीडम, बिलोंगिंग नॉट टू हर बट टू द पीपल। So but the narrator, still she remains loyal. She understands his calling but also feels the emotional emptiness of his absence even when he is physically there. So the story closes with the narrator sitting alone, watching the valley from a high rock, waiting again as she used to when he was in prison. She reflects that the land belongs to no one, and not even to white farmer who claims it. As she watches clouds shifting and the grey rat eating the sky, she realizes that though her lover is home, her lover is at home, but she is still waiting for him, for true freedom, for her place in a changing world. So in this story, there's a final line that echo her inner voice. I'm waiting for him to come back. I'm waiting to come back home. So this repetition transforms personal waiting into a metaphor for a nation's unfinished freedom. Now we'll discuss the characters. The first is the narrator, the unnamed woman. She is the central voice of the story, a poor black young woman who works on farms. So she represents the countless women left behind during the liberation struggle. Her strength is quiet but enduring. She keeps her family alive, raises her child, and remains emotionally faithful. Yet she also reveals that loneliness and invisibility of women in political movements, right? Her patience and silence becomes acts of resistance. The man, her lover and political activist. So the man is her lover and political activist. He is intelligent, he is educated and charismatic. He symbolizes a new generation of freedom fighters who move from labor rights to political revolution. His imprisonment and later his devotion to the movement, shows his transformation from individual to symbol, from lover to the leader. However, his emotional distance after release show the cost of political idealism. He wins his people's freedom but loses intimacy and simplicity. The child, जिसका नाम मैंने बताया था ना आपको, ये इसका नाम है इनकुलु लेको लेको, इसका मतलब होता है फ्रीडम. Sorry if I pronounce it wrongly. So she is a symbol character born during his trial and raised in absence. This child represents new hope, the future of South Africa, and the generation that may grow up free. Her inability to recognize her father shows how political struggle disrupts family bonds. The parents, the parents of this man, they embody the older rural generation who are devout, submissive, shaped by poverty and faith. The father's fear for the white farmer reflects how deeply oppression has been internalized. The comrades, they represent collective resistance, young men who share his ideals and activism. They bring energy and danger. Their presence threatens the fragile peace of the rural life. Now we'll discuss the major theme. The first is freedom and its complexities. So freedom in the story is not simple liberation, it's a partial postponed and painful. The man is free from prison but still not free to live as he wishes. He remains bound to the political movement. The narrator too remains trapped in economic and emotional confinement. Right? Love and distance. So love in amnesty is deep but sacred by Time in separation, ideology, and the lovers' reunion is tender yet incomplete. Their emotional connection is strained. The narrator's waiting becomes a metaphor for the endurance of women in political struggle. The personal versus the political. So Godwin's genius lies in showing how the personal is inseparable from the political. Even love, motherhood, and home are politicized under apartheid. The woman's private suffering mirrors the nation's collective waiting for change. The fourth is gender and invisibility. So the story highlights the silenced role of women in liberation movement. While men become heroes, the women sustain life quietly behind the scenes without recognition or power. The narrator is both strongly marginalized, devoted yet excluded from the movement. The land and the ownership. So the farm setting becomes a symbol of dispossession. Dispossession. The narrator realizes we haven't got a home at all, even after political release. They still live on white-owned land. Waiting and hope. So waiting defines the narrator's existence, and waiting for letters, for release, for return and recognition. It is the story's emotional rhythm, yet this waiting is not passive. It's a full of faith, endurance, and quiet resistance. Her waiting she becomes her waiting becomes a form of moral strength, a mirror of South Africa's patience before freedom. So ये जो स्टोरी है ये फर्स्ट पर्सन नरेशन है. इट क्रिएट्स इंटीमेसी. द रीडर्स फील्स हर इमोशंस डायरेक्टली. इसका जो टोन है काफ़ी सिंपल है, कॉन्वर्जेशनल है, दैट रिफ्लेक्ट्स हर बैकग्राउंड एंड ऑथेंटिसिटी. नो पॉलिटिकल जार्गन इज देयर, जस्ट लिफ्ट लाइक ट्रूथ. सिम्बलिज्म है जैसे कि आइलैंड है, रॉबन आइलैंड एंड द पॉलिटिकल इम्प्रिजनमेंट. रैट ईटिंग द स्काई, ये भी है एक सिंबल है यहाँ पर. दैट इंक्रोचिंग डिस्पेयर एंड अनफिनिश्ड लिबरेशन. इसके अलावा यहाँ पे आयरनी भी है. द स्टोरी इज टाइटल्ड एमनेस्टी बट द ट्रू इमोशनल फ्रीडम इज स्टिल मिसिंग, राइट. और इमेजरी यहाँ पे लैंड और नेचर की. द लैंडस्केप मिरर्स हर इमोशंस एंड वास्ट ब्यूटीफुल एंड इंडिफरेंट. सो Nadine Gordimer's Amnesty is both a love story and a political elegy. It humanizes the South African struggle by focusing on leaders or heroes, but on an ordinary woman whose patience holds the world together. The story reveals that the freedom is not only the release of prisoners, it's also the liberation those who wait for them, and those who love them, those who must rebuild their lives after the struggle. So, through her subtle, compassionate narrative, Godimer transforms personal silence into a universal voice, one that speaks for all who had lived through oppression, separation, and hope. So, Eminista is not just about the end of prison, it's about the beginning of understanding what freedom truly means. Right? Now, the third story is ABC Antidote. Now we'll discuss the third story, ABC Antidote by Ismail Burr. So Ismail Burr is a Sierra Leonean author, human rights activist, and former child soldier, internationally known for his memoir A Long Way Gone: Memoirs of a Boy Soldier, which got published in 2007. His life and writing stand as a living testimony to the resilience of human spirit, the power of memory, and the possibility of redemption after war. So Barr's work merged autobiography, social justice, and literary art, revealing how storytelling can bear witness to violence and restore humanity. So he was born on 23 November 1980 or maybe 1981. This is not confirmed. So he was born at Mogwemo, a small village in Sierra Leone, West Africa. His nationality is Sierra Leone. He was a writer, humanitarian, UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador, and advocate for children affected by war. So Ismail Burr was Ismail Burr's childhood was violently erupted by the outbreak of Sierra Leone civil war in 1991. At the age of 12, he was separated from his family during a rebel attack by the Revolutionary United Front. After wandering with friends and surviving extreme hunger and fear, he was forcibly recruited into the government army at the age of 13. For nearly 2 years, he fought as a child soldier, witnessing and participating in brutal acts of violence. At the age of 16, Ismail was rescued by UNICEF and taken to rehabilitation center in Freetown. There, through the help of counselors and a social worker named Esther, he began the slow process of emotional recovery. He later moved to New York City in 1998 after being adopted by Laura Sims, a human rights activist and a story teller who became his guardian. Right? So this transition from war-torn Africa to peaceful America forms the basis of his later reflection on identity, trauma, and belonging. He was graduated from the United Nations International School at New York in 2000. He earned a BA degree in political science from Oberlin College, Ohio in 2004. So Ismail Burr began speaking about child soldiers at UNICEF events and the international human rights forums, including the United Nations. His life became a mission to speak for the millions of children trapped in war. Writing became his form of witness and healing, turning personal trauma into a universal story of survival and hope. So let's talk about his major works. So the first is A Long Way Gone. It's a memoirs of a boy soldier which got published in 2007. It's an autobiographical memoir. This is Ismail Ba's most famous and widely read work, translated into more than 40 languages and included in school and university curricula worldwide. So this memoir traces Ba's journey from a happy, musical loving child to a traumatized child soldier and finally to a survivor and peace advocate. He advocates peaceful childhood, war and separation, recruitment into the army, rescue and discovery, and new life in America, right? The second work is Radiance of Tomorrow, and it was published in 2014. It's a novel. It's actually Bar's first novel, though fictional, and it continues to explore aftermath of war. This novel set in a small village in Sierra Leone after the Civil War. The novel follows two teachers, Benjamin and Bokeri, as they return home to rebuild their community. They face corruption, exploitation by foreign mining companies, and the struggle to restore cultural values and hope. Right? And this novel has themes of rebuilding after war, loss and renewal, environmental and moral decay, storytelling and is memory, and the radiance tomorrow lies in our ability to remember today. The third is Little Family, and it was recently published in 2020. Barr's second novel tells the story of five homeless children living on the margins of an unnamed African country. They create their own little family, building love and stability in a world of corruption and inequality. So the themes we can found in this novel, that is found family and survival in post-colonial Africa, childhood and vulnerability amid modern exploitation, human dignity as resistance against poverty and violence, and urban alienation and moral disconnection. So Bar shows that freedom is not in the absence of struggle, it is the capacity to love, share, and protect one another even in hardships. So the central idea in Ismail Bar's writing is childhood and war. Childhood and war explores how war destroys innocence and identity. The second idea is memory and testament that writes. This writing becomes a moral act that keeping history alive. There's resilience and redemption. So it's focus on human capacity to rebuild after trauma. Um, his writing has global human rights that advocates the protection of children in war zones. And the last idea we can see in his writing, that is community healing, that belief in storytelling, family, and shared humanity as a means of healing. So his literary style and technique is very unique. फर्स्ट पर्सन रियलिज्म, सिंपल एंड लिरिकल प्रोज होता है, उसमें मॉरल सिंसेरिटी है, इमेजरी एंड सिम्बलिज्म है, नरेटिव स्ट्रक्चर है. इनको भी काफ़ी सारे अवार्ड्स मिले, जैसे कि बार्नस एंड नोबल डिस्कवर अवार्ड इन 2007, क्विल अवार्ड नॉमिनी फॉर द बेस्ट डेब्यू ऑथर इन 2007. Time Magazine's top 10 non-fiction books in 2007. UNICEF advocate for children affected by the war, and he's named among the world's 100 most influential young Africans in 2015. So beyond writing, Ismail Ba is a global advocate for peace building and child protection. He has spoken at the United Nations General Assembly, World Economic Forum, and TED Talks, as well as UNICEF forums. He also founded the Ismail Ba Foundation, which helps reintegrate former child soldiers into society through through education and community programs. Right. So Ishmael's life and writing exemplify the power of survival, compassion, and storytelling. From a child soldier in Sierra Leone to a global voice for peace, his journey embodies the triumph of humanity over sorrow. Through works like A Long Way Gone, Radiance of Tomorrow, and Little Family, he gives us more than stories. He gives us witness, truth, and healing. Because of memory, he knows what is possible, and because of hope, he keeps writing. He keeps writing. So we'll discuss the short story which is in our syllabus, ABC Antidote, right? So Ishmael Ba's ABC Antidote is a metaphorical and political charged short story that explores the power of education as liberation, how the ability to read, write, and think critically becomes the most effective antidote against ignorance, manipulation, and oppression. The story belongs to the anthology Freedom Short Stories Celebrating the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which commemorates the 60th anniversary of Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948. So Baha's story aligns with particularly Article 26, the right to education. It says everyone has a right to education. Drawing from his own experience as a former child soldier and survivor of war in Sierra Leone, Ba transforms the simple idea of learning the alphabet into a profound reflection on how knowledge cures the poison of fear and violence. So let's talk about the plot summary of this short story. The story is set in a war torn African village in a context where education has been neglected or forbidden by the corrupt authorities and violent regimes. Schools are destroyed, teachers are silenced, and the children grow up without reading and writing, only surviving. So, the narrator, who is like the narrator is a teacher like figure, introduces the idea of education symbolized by ABC, right? So it can be used as an antidote to the poison of ignorance spread by those in power. So the story unfolds almost like a parable or the fable, using symbolism and allegory instead of linear plot. So the story opens with the image of a poison infecting people. Not a it's The poison is not a biological virus, but actually the poison is a social and intellectual one. The poison is ignorance, the lack of education and awareness, the lack of awareness. This is the poison. The poison is not the literal poison or any kind of virus. It's an ignorance. It's the lack of education. It's a lack of awareness. That allows dictators, warlords and corrupt leaders to control the people. जब तक लोग पढ़े लिखे नहीं होंगे तब तक तो ये डिक्टेटर्स, वॉरलॉर्ड्स, लीडर्स जो कि करप्ट हैं, हमारे नेता, हमारे मंत्री, हमारे मिनिस्टर्स, मतलब जो अथॉरिटी में हैं, वो लोग अच्छे से रूल कर पाएंगे. लेकिन जिस दिन हम लोग पढ़ लिख जाएंगे, हम लोग सवाल करने लगेंगे. हम जब तक सवाल नहीं करते, जब तक हमारे पास नॉलेज नहीं होती. व्हेन वी बिगिन टू रीड, व्हेन वी बिगिन टू स्टडी, तो हम क्वेश्चन करने लगेंगे और फिर वहाँ इन लोगों का रूल ख़त्म हो जाएगा. सो यहाँ पर इन्होंने ये जो पॉइजन फैलाया है वो है इग्नोरेंस का. एजुकेशन नहीं है, अवेयरनेस की लैकिंग है, इसका पॉइजन फैलाया है. तो ABC एंटीडोट नाम का ही प्रोग्राम शुरू हुआ है जो कि पढ़ाने के लिए एक इनिशिएट है ये. सो द नरेटर सेज दैट इन their सोसाइटी दिस prison spreads throughout. Fear of questioning authority, lies and propaganda, blind obedience, and destruction of schools and books. Thus, the people become weak, submissive, and unable to imagine change. So, the narrator introduces this antidote the ABC antidote. Learning, and this, what is this about? It's a learning to read, write, and think becomes a literal cure against mental slavery. When people learn to spell and form words, they also begin to form thoughts, ideas, and resistance. The alphabet becomes a symbol of awakening. Its symbol almost childish yet revolutionary in its potential. So the antidote to the poison of ignorance is simple: A, B, C. So each letter of the alphabet represents the steps toward freedom, identity, and power. So as the narrator begins teaching, the villagers who once feared authority begins to change. They start to understand their rights, question injustice, and communicate truthfully. So education becomes contagious in a positive sense. It spreads like medicine through the community. So children start teaching adults, women start reading aloud, conversations shift from superstition to understanding. So this ABC antidote empowers the people to reclaim their humanity and rebuild society. So, however, not everyone welcomes this transformation. Those who benefit from ignorance, the local chiefs, corrupt soldiers, and politicians, see ABC as a threat. बिल्कुल सच बात है. जिसको इससे नुकसान होने वाला, उनको तो ये खतरा ही लगेगा ना कि पढ़ाई लिखाई शुरू हो गई है लोगों की, अब हमारी कौन सुनेगा, हमारा रूल ख़राब हो जाएगा. तो उन्हें तो ये थ्रेटिंग लगा और उन्होंने कुछ किया भी होगा इसको बंद कराने के लिए. But the people who are now awakened resist against them. They hide their works, they protect their teachers. ये लोगों ने किया, बहुत बड़ी बात है ये. They hide their books, they protect their teachers and continue to learn in secret. So the antidote has already taken effect. Once the mind knows truth, it can't be enslaved again. ये बात बिल्कुल सच है. अगर आप enslaved हैं, तो जिस दिन आपको ये पता चल जाता है ना कि आप enslaved हैं, वही दिन आखिरी दिन होता है आपकी स्लेवरी का. क्योंकि जो जानता है, जो अवेयर है, उसे कभी कोई गुलाम बना ही नहीं सकता. जो जानता नहीं, जिसको नॉलेज नहीं है, जो अपने लिए बोल नहीं पाता, दैट पर्सन इज ओनली एबल टू बीइंग enslaved, right? So the story ends on a hopeful and visionary note. The narrator says that as long as people continue to learn, no poison can destroy their freedom again. They will try to erase the words, but the words are already written in their mind. So the title ABC Antidote thus carries both literal and metaphorical meaning. Education heals individuals and societies who are actually poisoned by fear, propaganda, and oppression. Right? So this is about the story. Now we'll discuss the characters. The first character is narrator. It's who is a teacher as well. So he represents knowledge, truth, and transformative power of education, a figure of hope and leadership, much like a healer. The second characters are the villagers who are now students. हर कोई पढ़ रहा है, बच्चे भी पढ़ रहे हैं, बड़े भी पढ़ रहे हैं, मेन विमेन सब पढ़ रहे हैं. सो बच्चे अब टीचर हो गए हैं बल्कि यहाँ पर. So villagers, they represent the ordinary people who suffer under oppression. The gradual awakening symbolizes the collective rise of human consciousness. The third is authorities. Authorities में कौन कौन है? Dictators, soldiers, chiefs, leaders, corrupt leaders, right? And so they symbolize ignorance, control, and the systematic power that keeps people uneducated to maintain their dominance. The children, they represent purity, they represent curiosity and the future generation that will not be poisoned by fear once they are educated. So in this sense, the ABC antidote is less about individuals and more collective transformation, the awakening of an entire community. Now we'll discuss the themes of this short story. Education as freedom. So this is the central theme of the story. Ismail Burr represents education not just as literacy but as mental liberation. Learning the alphabet is a symbolic of learning to think, the first step towards social justice. Once the mind learns to read, it also learns to question. So this reflects the universal declaration of human rights that believe that education promotes understanding and tolerance and peace. Ignorance as poison. So the poison in the story stands for fear, propaganda, and blind obedience. Those who control information use ignorance as a weapon. So Ishmael Bar's metaphor shows the mental enslavement can be more powerful than physical chains. Knowledge and power. So the story demonstrates how literacy shifts the balance of power. When the oppressed become literate, they gain access to truth, and truth becomes an act of resistance. So knowledge, therefore, is the most potent of form of non-violent revolution. Colonial legacy and post-war healing. So in post-colonial, post-war, in post-colonial, post-war Africa, access to education often divides the powerful and the powerless. So Ishmael Bar's story echoes this reality that education becomes a means of reclaiming identity and rebuilding community after years of exploitation. The role of teachers and storytellers. So the narrator teacher represents all who pass knowledge on, such as teachers, writers, elders, and activists. Like Ishmael Bar himself, the teacher's role is not only to inform but to heal and empower. So the story becomes a self reflection of Bar's belief that words are medicine. The last theme of this short story is hope and human resilience. So, despite destruction and oppression, the human desire to learn persists. The final image of hidden books and whisper lessons shows hope and resistance, that learning continues even in darkness. So, इस शॉर्ट स्टोरी का सिंबलिज्म है ABC, that stands for knowledge, right? नॉलेज है, दैट नॉलेज, फ्रीडम, हीलिंग, पॉइजन. एंड पॉइजन जो है, मतलब ABC जो है वो नॉलेज है, फ्रीडम है, हीलिंग. और जो पॉइजन है वो ऑपरेशन है, लाइट है, डार्कनेस है. और जो लाइट है वो अवेयरनेस है, और जो डार्कनेस है वो इग्नोरेंस है. लैंग्वेज काफ़ी सिंपल और क्लियर है. रेपिटेशन यहाँ पर काफ़ी ज़्यादा है. द एंटीडोट नॉवल में, सॉरी, शॉर्ट स्टोरी में काफ़ी ज़्यादा एंटीडोट का रेपिटेशन है. डिडैक्टिक टोन है, टीचेस this didactic tone teaches moral and social truth without being preachy, right? और जो metaphorical imagery है, classroom, the classroom as a hospital, the book as medicine that connects learning and healing. So Ishmael Bar's the ABC antidote is a story of rebirth through education. It transforms a simple alphabet lesson into a global metaphor for human rights and empowerment. Through poetic simplicity and allegorical vision, Bas reminds us that the mind, once educated, can't be enslaved again. So his story celebrates the courage of those who teach, learn, and speak even when words are forbidden. So the dictators, the authorities poisoned them with ignorance, but they cured themselves with knowledge. So the title itself becomes Bas philosophy. The title itself becomes Bas philosophy. Education is the antidote to every form of oppression. राइट. सो ये तीनों स्टोरीज हमने वन बाय वन डिस्कस कर ली. अब हम पढ़ेंगे प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चंस की आंसर राइटिंग स्ट्रैटेजीज. सो द फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज discuss the personal experience discussed in Paulo Coelho's story in the prison of repose with respect to his incarceration in the asylum. So this question asks you to connect Paulo Coelho's real life experience of being confined in a psychiatric hospital with the autobiographical elements, psychological reality of the story. So your answer should blend with biography, theme, and emotional truth. So the first point you can add in your answer, that is autobiographical foundation. So this autobiographical foundation based on Coelho's own confinement from the year 1966 to 68 in a psychiatric hospital in Rio de Janeiro. His parents institutionalized him due to his rebellious artistic temperament and rejection of societal norm. The second is the asylum as symbolic. The asylum as a symbolic prison. It represents the repressive authority of society over individual freedom. The word repose is in the title is ironic. It's not peace but forced silence. Right? Third is daily life and emotional pain. So his diary reveals monotony, fear, humiliation, and a longing for freedom. He records being mocked, drugged, and emotionally manipulated by doctors, especially Dr. Benjamin. Right? Fourth is loneliness and artistic sensitivity. So, his guitar and poetry symbolize the fragile link between sanity and creativity. The hospital setting mirrors his inner despair and longing for meaning. Right. Fifth is conflict with authority. So, Dr. Benjamin's authoritarian control mirrors society's suppression of difference. So, Paulo refuses to adjust, choosing individual over conformity. So, sixth is impact on future work. So his later novels like Veronica Decides to Die and The Alchemist echo this period's themes: confinement, self-discovery, and spiritual freedom. The asylum taught him that madness is often society's label for originally. So you can use this point and write: in the prison of repose is both a memoir of suffering and a manifesto of inner freedom. Through his experience, Paulo reveals that institutions can confine the body but can't imprison the imagination. His endurance transforms pain into art, making confinement the seed of his creative liberation. So, anything done with love is worthwhile, he writes, defying the world that called him insane. So you can structure an answer. इंट्रोडक्शन में आप ये ऑटोबायोग्राफिकल बैकग्राउंड लिख सकते हैं, एंड मिडिल में आप अपना ये जो सारे एक्सपीरियंसेस हैं इसको लिख सकते हैं, that themes of control, art, and resistance, and how, and in the end you can use this point: how suffering shaped his philosophy of freedom and creativity. Right? Question number 2: comment on the significance on the title of Paulo Coelho's In the Prison of Repose. This is very important. So this question focuses on symbolism and irony in the title. You must show how the title captures both the literal confinement and metaphorical meaning, which are psychological, social, and spiritual. So key points यहाँ पर जो रहेंगे आपको अपने आंसर में ऐड करने, that the first is लिटरल लेवल. सो प्रीजन की बात करें अगर हम, सो प्रीजन द साइकेट्रिक असाइलम वेयर कोलो वॉज कन्फाइंड, एंड द रिपोज सपोज टू रेस्ट और काम, बट इट्स इम्पोज स्टिलनेस, नॉट ट्रू फॉर पीस. राइट. सेकेंडली, you can talk about irony in the title. So the title suggests a contradiction. Peace inside prison is impossible. Kolo is at rest only because his freedom has been taken away. Right? Third, you can add psychological meaning. So the prison of repose represents emotional paralysis when society forces silence upon creativity. He is trapped not by madness but by misunderstanding. Right? Fourth is symbol of repressive order. So the hospital becomes a microcosm of authoritarian society that demands obedience under the guise of care. Right? Fifth is spiritual and artistic repose. Ironically, within that confinement, he discovers an inner freedom, that is reflection, writing, and awareness, and thus the prison leads to a spiritual awakening. Universal implication: the title symbolizes how all society label free thinkers as mad, imprisoning them in norms and silence. So the title, you can use this point to write your answer. You can write: the title In the Prison of Repose captures the paradox of forced peace, a peace achieved by destroying individuality. It challenges us to ask. The title is In the Prison of Repose captures the paradox of forced peace, a peace achieved by destroying individuality. It challenges us to ask: is calmness valuable if it comes at the cost of freedom? So, Carlos Stories suggest that true repose exists only in self expression, not in control. The repose they offered, that was death in disguise. So we must choose life through rebellion. So आपको अपने इस आंसर में स्ट्रक्चर ऐसा रखना है कि आपको फर्स्ट पैराग्राफ में इस टाइटल का लिटरल मीनिंग बताना है, द लिटरल लेवल बताना है. सेकंड में आपको आयरनी और इमोशनल और साइकोलॉजिकल सिम्बोलिज्म बताना है, सिम्बोलिज्म और रिप्रेसिव ऑर्डर बताना है. एंड यू कैन कंक्लूड योर आंसर विद दिस स्पिरिचुअल इम्प्लीकेशन, स्पिरिचुअल मैसेज ऑन फ्रीडम, राइट. और मेन पार्ट में आयरनी, साइकोलॉजी, सिंबल एंड स्पिरिचुअल एंड आर्टिस्टिक रिपोज बताना है. ठीक है. क्वेश्चन नंबर 3, it's about ABC antidote. So Ishmael Baz ABC antidote foregrounds education as a plead against conflict and violence. Discuss. So this question links education with peace building and empowerment as portrayed symbolically in Baz story. So you must show how ABC क्या है, ABC alphabet become a metaphorical antidote to ignorance and war. So key points you can add in your answer, that is education as healing. So the first point is education as healing. The ABC antidote represents literacy as a vaccine against mental slavery and fear. In war-torn communities, ignorance is used as a weapon by dictators and rebels alike. It's a symbol of antidote. The ABC, basic letter, symbolizes the foundation of knowledge. The learning becomes an act of healing, resistance, and freedom. Ignorance as poison. So the story portrays ignorance as a toxic disease spread by oppression. Without education, people become victims of manipulation and violence. Transformation through learning. So once people learn to read, they begin to question, they begin to resist and imagine change. So education empowers individual to reclaim their human dignity. Teacher as a healer. So the narrator acts as a symbolic teacher, come doctor, administering the antidote. So teaching becomes both moral and political action. And you can talk about human rights context. So the story aligns with Article 26 of Universal Declaration of Human Rights that talks about right to education. So Ismail Ba draws from his own experience as a child soldier, showing that ignorance fuels violence while knowledge restores humanity. So you can use these points to write a good answer for this question. You can write Ismail Baz story suggests that education is not just about literacy. It's about freedom of thought. Knowledge equips people with the power to say no to violence, no to propaganda, and no to oppression. So in this way, the ABC antidote transforms the simple act of learning into a moral revolution. So exam answer tip for writing a good answer tip ये है कि आपको एजुकेशन को आपको लिंक करना है टू ह्यूमन राइट्स एंड पीस. और जो आपका मिडिल पार्ट होगा उसमें आपको सिम्बॉलिक एनालिसिस करना है, इग्नोरेंस ऑफ पॉइजन की बात करनी है, पॉइजन वर्सेस एंटीडोट की बात करनी है, ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन की बात करनी है जो कि लर्निंग के थ्रू होगा, और टीचर एज अ डॉक्टर एज अ हीलर कैसे काम कर रहे हैं इस एंटीडोट से, ABC एंटीडोट से. आपको ये लिखना है एंड यू कैन कंक्लूड योर आंसर विथ यूनिवर्सल मॉरल मैसेज दैट एजुकेशन इज द lasting peace, right? Now we'll go to the last question for this class. Explain these lines with a reference to context. I am watching the rat, it's losing itself, its shape, eating the sky, and I am waiting for him to come back. I am waiting to come back home. So, this question asks you to explain the context where these lines appears. तो आपने ये अगर स्टोरी बहुत अच्छे से पढ़ी है तो यू विल नो कि आप ये जो लाइन्स है ये है कहाँ. So you need to explain the context where these lines appear and analyze them with their symbolic meaning, especially in relation of waiting, loneliness, and freedom. So this line I am telling you about these lines. So these lines occur in the final scene of नाडिने गॉडाइमर स्टोरी एमएनएसटी. तो ये एमएनएसटी से लिया हुआ है, राइट. This question is very important, that is why I'm discussing it here. So सबसे पहले तो आपको ये बताना है कि ये लिया कहाँ से है. तो these line occur in the final scene of Nadine Gordimer's Nadine Gordimer's story Amnesty. The narrator is black South African woman. आपको ये भी बताना है कि ये लाइन बोल कौन रहा है. So the narrator is speaking this line to herself, and she is a black South African woman, reflects on her life after her lover, who is a political activist, has returned from prison. Though he is free, their emotional and social situation remain. But though he is free, but his emotional, but their emotional and social situations remain unchanged. She sits alone, watching the sky darken and waiting again. Right? So कुछ key points है जो आपको यहाँ पर add करने हैं. So the first point is symbolism of rat, symbol of rat and the sky. So the rat eating the sky here. Yes, rat eating the sky. The rat eating the sky. So this line symbolizes the darkness, decay and unfinished freedom. The sky, which is symbol of hope, is being consumed just as her personal dreams are overshadowed by political realities. There's a repetition of waiting. देखा ना, waiting 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 waiting, 4 times it's repeated. So this repetition creates rhythm and emotional intensity. Her waiting is both personal and political. Her waiting is both for her personal, for her lover, and political for the true freedom. Paradox of freedom. So through her lover is released from prison, but he's still enslaved by the movement, his political duties. So she realizes that freedom without intimacy feels like another kind of imprisonment, emotional and existential isolation. So her words expresses loneliness and the invisibility of women in political struggle. She said, "Na, I am waiting to come back home." So this line suggests that even she feels exiled within her own life. Right? Fifth is nation's metaphor. So the final image mirrors South Africa itself. The political prisoners are free, but the nation is still waiting for full equality and healing. So you can use these points to write your answer. You can write these lines capture Godimer's central theme, the intersection of the personal and the political. The woman's waiting becomes a microcosm of South Africa's long wait for justice, right? South Africa's long wait for justice. Her home is not just a house, it's a symbol of peace, wholeness, and belonging that still lies ahead. The closing image of the rat and the fading sky leaves readers with both hope and heartbreak. The freedom they dreamed of is still incomplete. So you can structure this answer by writing the context, by sorry analyzing the context. Context जो है एक emotional scene है. लाइंस जो है ये इट रिप्रेजेंट्स इमेजरी, सिम्बलिज्म एंड रिपीटेशन. थीमेटिक लिंक है यहाँ पर, जैसे कि लव है, वेटिंग है, फ्रीडम है, डिसइल्यूजनमेंट है. एंड यू कैन यूज दिस पॉइंट टू राइट अ गुड आंसर एंड कंक्लूड योर आंसर विद अ ब्रॉडर मैसेज ऑफ गॉडाइमर्स ह्यूमनिज्म. सो ये क्वेश्चन यहाँ ख़त्म हो गया है. सो माई टिप इज़ फॉर यू दैट ऑलवेज स्टार्ट with a 1 or 2 line introduction that identifies the author, work, and theme. You can include quotes. Very importantly, you must include quotes or paraphrases from the text to support your analysis. You can end your answer with a universal statement for this section, right? क्योंकि ये जो टॉपिक है ये काफ़ी यूनिवर्सल है, तो यूनिवर्सल स्टेटमेंट के साथ अपना आंसर इसमें एंड कीजिएगा. इन तीनों स्टोरीज में से किसी से भी क्वेश्चन आए ऐसा ही करना है. लाइक व्हाट द स्टोरी सेज अबाउट ह्यूमैनिटी, नॉट जस्ट द कैरेक्टर्स. सो एंड यू मस्ट मेंटेन क्लैरिटी, balance and coherence, right? So this is all about today's class. As we conclude today's discussion, so let us pause and reflect on the deeper message that unites all these powerful stories by Paulo Coelho, Nadine Gordimer, and the Ishmael Bay. So each of these writers, though born in different countries and times, speaks a common language, the language of freedom, the language of truth, and human dignity. In The Prison of Repose, Paulo Coelho transforms confinement into creativity, showing that even in silence, the soul can resist. In Nadine Gordimer's Amnesty, this story reminds us that waiting itself can be an act of courage, that the love and freedom often coexist in tension. And the third story, the ABC Antidote by Ishmael Burr, that celebrates education as the greatest weapon which against ignorance and violence. So together these works reminds us that literature is not only art, it is the witness, resistance, and renewal. So every story becomes a mirror reflecting the resilience of human spirit and the enduring power of hope. So as we prepare your answers, as you prepare your answers, remember, writing is not about memorizing, it's about thinking, connecting, and expressing what these stories truly mean. So this is all about for today's class. If this session helped you understand the deeper ideas behind these texts, so please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe this channel, because every discussion you engage in keeps the light of learning alive. So thank you for joining me. Keep reading deeply, keep questioning boldly, and above all, keep believing in the power of words to change the world. Thank you.